The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NBA.
The Lakers lose at home to Charlotte.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast.
So very much in this game, Andy, to dislike. I don't want to say I gave him a pass for Wednesday, but I didn't freak out about it last week. This one was very annoying and very bad.
I'm not going to freak out over this loss.
Not freaking out, but still very annoying.
It was, to me, it wasn't even so much annoying, although I wouldn't blame anybody for framing it that way, as it was just very weird. It was a very weird game, very disjointed, very out of sync. One of the things I know I want to talk about over the course of the show is it felt like LeBron and Luka, even acknowledging they have been teammates for 3 total games and have barely spent any time with Luka healthy at all, but it felt like they might as well have been playing 2 separate games because they were involved so little together in terms of synergy.
I would agree.
But things really fell off the rails. They fell really off the rails for the Lakers late in the third quarter, coinciding pretty directly with Austin Reeves' ejection, which we'll get into. But even in the first quarter that the Lakers finished up 28-21, they turned the ball over 9 times in that first quarter. 5 of them belonged to Luka. And looking back on it, those empty possessions really mattered, because had the Lakers scored on just like a third of them, they get enough points to win this game. So it all ends up coming back to bite the Lakers in the ass one way or the other.
Yeah, and I look at this as they gave up 20 points off turnovers. So, which, given how often they turn the ball over, isn't a terrible figure. But again, to your point, Andy, if you either just don't turn the ball over in those situations to give up the points, or, how about this? Score. You're in a different situation. Lakers only got to the line 12 times. Rui Hachimura missed 2 critical free throws down the stretch. This was a game. You can point to I think it was 63 points the Lakers gave up in the second half. Whatever. This was a game the Lakers lost on offense. And it's like, to me, 100% a game that I don't care how many second half points you give up. In the NBA in 2025, when the other team scores 100 points, you should win. And that's just you should win when you hold the other team to 100 points. And you look at the Lakers and what they did offensively, and the numbers are just hideous. They shot 41% overall, 29% from 3 on 51 attempts. I mentioned the 12 free throws. Those 2 numbers, by the way, are directly related to each other. Too many threes, not enough activity going towards the basket, too many turnovers. And this is the result. This was a terrible offensive game. As JJ Redick said afterwards, they played, I think he estimated 39 to 44 minutes of really bad offense.
To reframe what you were saying about how in 2025, if you hold a team to 100 points, you should win. The flip side of it is the Lakers in the second half scored 49 points. And in, say, 1925, if you score 49 points and a half, you are leaving yourself susceptible for a loss. You mentioned the amount of threes that they took, 51, making only 15 of them. And it meant that they actually shot 22 of 39 inside the arc. And is against a team, Charlotte does not have much in the way of rim protection. In the period where we thought Mark Williams was going to be a Laker. We did note that protecting the lane is not his strong suit as a defender, as a player. And, he demonstrated that when he was on the wrong end of an absolute monster dunk by LeBron, who caught Mark Williams, his ex-teammate's body on that play.
Technically true.
But what I do think also it demonstrates is being 22 of 39 from inside the arc, but 15 of 51. It's not just that you missed a lot of threes. It's the shot selection on the threes were often terrible. A lot of step back threes from Luka in particular. If you're going to take that many, you need to make more. Austin Reeves, who was frankly having a pretty bad game before he got ejected, which might have in part led to
I think it would a large part. Absolutely. Yeah.
Austin was, before getting ejected, 2 of 7 from behind the arc. I think they did not do a very good job looking to manufacture the shots that they missed. And I think that is in part the reason why they missed so many of those shots is a lot of them weren't that good of ones in the first place.
Standing around and all that kind of stuff. And I think your point that you were making, we'll get into a lot of the individual performances here and some of the big picture stuff. Look, Lakers play again tonight in, we're recording obviously on Thursday. For the audio version of this appear on Friday. Like, Lakers are in Portland.
Wednesday into Thursday.
On Wednesday and Thursday. Sorry, Thursday and Friday. And Lakers are in Portland on Thursday night. So, you talk about Luka and LeBron seeming like they played sort of separate games, and I think intellectually nobody should be surprised by this. The last two really big pairings, look at these superstar pairings the Lakers put together: LeBron James, Anthony Davis. Very easy to figure out how that works, offensively, the flow of that, whatever. Who has the ball? Where does the ball go? All that kind of stuff. That's not hard. Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, same thing. It's the same dynamic. Easy to know who's got the ball where, how that's going to flow, the positions are. There's much more overlap in what LeBron and Luka do. And while the potential, I think, for great stuff is certainly there, it also means a longer feeling out process. It's much more similar to when LeBron and Wade got together for the first time, and Miami went 9-8 before they went on like a 20-2 run or something like that. Now, the Lakers don't have necessarily that kind of time that they're down to 29 games left in the season. But bigger picture, when you figure out what Luka and LeBron are doing, it's like it makes a lot of sense that this could take a minute to figure out. Austin Reeves was not having a good night. I think he was absolutely frustrated at the lack of whistles. And he was, in fact, fouled on the play. You could see Yusuf Nurkic got his arm, pulled the arm away. I guess I could see it was close enough to the ball. I guess I could see why the ref missed it. But Reeves was correct. And he certainly earned the first technical. He said after the game, he got it. He understood, you're yelling at it. You walk up to the guy, you make and you're yelling. The second one, he was walking away, but he did turn his head and he didn't stop talking.
Yeah.
And did it look like a quick trigger? Sure. Should the referee probably have let it go? Maybe. I don't know. But the point is, Reeves got to be smarter than that. That is 100% on AR. If you're going to keep talking, and you probably shouldn't, you can't look back at the ref. And when the whistle blew, Reeves didn't look surprised. He walked right off the court.
Yeah, so absolutely. I think Austin knew that he messed up. First of all, according to English to Slovenian translation via Google, newsletter is glasilo. So look for everybody's Zdravo. Look for your glasilos if you subscribe to Locked On.
I don't know if that's correct or not, but it's really the thought that counts. I think it's the effort that we're putting.
No, I've decided it's glasilo. So Zdravo, everybody, look for your glasilos when you subscribe to LockedOnDaily.com. Secondly, it's not just that Austin looked back while he was talking, he was extremely demonstrative on the original tech.
Yeah.
Like the thing that got him teed up in the first place was very over the top. So that's the point where you have to realize you cannot talk.
Just
walk away. You cannot talk at all. I mean, you damn sure better make sure that if you're gonna keep talking, it's got to be very calm, very like, okay, my bad, body language. Let me talk. Like, if you're
say
going
what you
to
want, but
do it,
if I'm watching on TV, it looks like I'm being super polite, even if I'm mother effing the referee,
Right.
like right down there. Yeah.
and things went really downhill after that ejection. To put it in perspective, 3:17 left in the third quarter when Austin was ejected. The Lakers were up 65-57. They had been up 13 in that third quarter. Charlotte then went on an 18-1 run over about 6 minutes that was eventually broken up at least a bit by a Rui 3. But the game absolutely went sideways afterwards. I mean, recognized before, Austin was not playing particularly well in this game to begin with, but you lose a lot of what you were looking to do from a rotational and an execution standpoint, just not having Austin there, even if he's not playing well.
I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, or comedy. Imagine going to the big game this Sunday. That's what a lot of the people around me here on Radio Row are going to do, and the fans who are coming to New Orleans. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have time searching. Inspiration makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and take the work on tickets. Gametime. Download Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
Bojan Bogdanovic is no more. But we get Killian Hayes. Oh, baby, what to expect?
You are Locked On Nets, your daily Brooklyn Nets podcast.
God, man, we spent a lot of time, including you, solo, doing the Lord's work, talking about what has been the numbers, the odds, the percentages, the disaster of this season potentially for the Brooklyn Nets. But today, we get to talk about roster moves, and that's what we're most excited about post-All-Star.
Oh, Bojan Bogdanovic. We never knew ye. We literally never did. He never even came and played for the Nets, and he's already off the team. So that was that dream died hard. Although we kind of saw this one coming. Bojan ends up getting waived here. We knew that there was just a chance that this was going to happen. I think we kind of said this before the season started. We never really heard word one about him, right? Like usually with players like this, you'll get some kind of injury update, or the team, we get these team PR reports, and it'll say like, so-and-so's worked back to 5-on-5. We'll talk about that with Cam Thomas, all this stuff. They never even gave did they ever even give an injury report for him this year? I don't remember, except for just saying out. Like, I don't remember there being ever an injury report for him. It never seemed like he was close. It was salary fodder when they traded McHale. Yeah. And that kind of all it ever was. And I don't know if that means it's kind of the end of his time here in the NBA and he'll go back to Europe or whatever, or injuries, but it's not all that surprising that he never took the court. It was just like never talked about in a way that where you felt like it was really imminent at any point.
Yeah, I think they referred to him as a skin sack filled with broken bones and blood soup. There was nothing.
Man, I did not know where that was going, pal. Like I was like, whoa, we're about to hit the mute button here, and then it ended
up. Well, you got it. Yeah, you always want to see those jokes out. Sometimes it's a risk, but in the end, we landed the plane, and I like to think, perfectly. But there was no expectation that we ever thought that he was going to be a part of this team this season, or even be healthy enough to be on the team this season, or anything else. So it's unfortunate. But remember, once upon a time, he was a Brooklyn Net who did play basketball for the Nets many, many years ago. It comes in conjunction with a couple of moves. We'll talk a little bit more about Tyrese Martin. It's a nice story for him to get converted to a full contract. They're playing on two ways. But this also makes room for one Killian Hayes. And this came up, fans when you did Fan Take Fridays, going back maybe a few weeks or a month ago, it was, hey, have you seen what Hayes has been up to? You go back and you look at his tip-off tournament and regular season numbers going down to the G League. Are you excited about 33, almost 34 minutes, 17 points, 47% from the field. Listen, buddy, you combine everything he's done at the G League level, 35% from beyond the arc, probably the most notable. Are we surprised by this? I know that I'm not. This makes all the sense. 28 games. This is it. Killian Hayes, you want to reclaim your NBA career. You have 28 games with the Brooklyn Nets and all the space in the world, as Doug Norrie would say, to explore the studio, so to speak.
Well, buddy, I'm going to do what I hate. And I'm going to cherry pick some stats in Killian Hayes' favor here, because if you actually take out the tip-off tournament in the G League and just go regular season, it gets a lot stronger. And we've said a lot where at the G League level, you have to crush it. Like, if you're going to have any hope in the NBA level, you have to crush the G League, because the G League is, an order of magnitude easier, just an easier run just in terms of the overall talent pool. It's there's just the players are worse. Like, that's just so your numbers have to be way better in the G League than the kind of thing need to be eye popping, right? Just to think about sniffing the NBA. And frankly, Hayes' numbers in the regular season have kind of like been that. He's been 50% from the field, 40% from three, has gotten the free throw percentage up to 77%, which you love to see. I mean, all really good. And of all those, of the two, I would say the 40% from three and the free throw percentage, back out the field goal percentage because the shots are overall easier. Where the threes are going down and just standing at the free throw line, those shots are going in, right? Because that's talent independent. Like, you're standing there by yourself, right? Like, they don't intimidate you harder in the G League, or intimidate you less while you stand at the foul line.
LeBron's looking at you, as you try to take your free throw. That might get you a little.
Fair enough. I just meant but the G League's not gonna they're not gonna have equal intimidation. That's really encouraging. It's really encouraging that the efficiency went way up, because that was the exact thing we said. It's like, hey, if the efficiency's in the dumpster in the G League, forget it. What's the point? There's no point. But if you're going to get sort of like hyper efficient in the G League, then it's a 10-day contract. We'll see where it goes. But but he showed those 13 games, he showed, okay, can hit the threes, can make some shots from the free throw line. Maybe some of this stuff is sorted out mechanics wise and in your head wise or whatever it is. I'm excited. We wanted this guy to play. Like, these are just the kind of flyers we wanted Sean Marks to take. Post hype, something didn't work out, no risk. Like, this is just the kind of guy. So yeah, I mean, it's only 10 days for now, but I'm here for it. I wish it happened sooner, but I can understand why it didn't.
Yeah, yes. I mean, there's just the order of operations over the course of the season. Maybe it's just the optics of it all when you go to bring him up. And then, of course, from a high level, which Killian Hayes was never fully this, but it's, swap out one non-shooter in Ben Simmons who could facilitate the crap out of the game for a guy that didn't necessarily shoot very well, but could facilitate the crap out of the game. Down there, the other stat is over 8 assists per game at the G League level. Now, it's 13 games, so the sample size is small. The other thing, when you talk about the 40% from beyond the arc, to your point, it really matters that it's 5.5 attempts per game. Sometimes when you get into the stats and you say, and I'll use the free throw shooting as the example, it's less than 2. So is under 2 free throw attempts per game. Can I trust those percentages over 13 games? Probably not. But can I trust over 5 attempts from beyond the arc and say, hey, he's maybe figured something out with his mechanics, or like you say, between the ears, which has been the case with a handful of players in the past for Brooklyn? Yeah, I'm willing to hang my hat pretty heavily on the idea that at least you can bring him up to the NBA level and think that can have value for you. If it was only a shot and a half from beyond the arc, again, I'd have a hard time. If you're talking 30 to 35 three-point attempts over 13 games in the G League, I got a really big NBA sample size. The other thing is, as you talked about when we had...
but real quick, before you go on, real quick, the numbers. I mean, 72 threes in the regular season for them so far. It's not nothing, right? It's not a huge sample size, but I don't know. You start to normalize probably not too far out on this number of threes, right? I'm not sure what the rate normalization is on attempts, like where that end starts to go, but you'd have to think it's probably in the hundreds. I'm not I mean, I guess you can run hot a little bit, but you don't see it for really, really long stretches. Anyway, a guy who can shoot 40% over 70 shots, there's for sure something there. It's not 10, right? It's not 4 for 10. That's all I mean.
No, and by the way, if you go back and you look at it, when he was at his worst in Detroit on 286 three-point attempts, when he was shooting 28%, right? But that was the only year when he really spiked. He had 2 years that bookended 23-24 and his rookie campaign, where he only took 72 and 74 shots from beyond the arc. So take the sample size and be able to feel like it's getting in a better direction. That matters here.
When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love FanDuel's live betting features because every moment is exciting. When I follow my team on a late game rally, when the player I picked hits a clutch 3, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. The NBA back in action, and now is a great time to get in on some late night lines. The Suns, 2-point favorites on the road against the Spurs and the Lakers. 4-point favorites in Portland. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Are the Knicks reinforcements about to arrive?
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast.
Coming out of the break here, Mitchell Robinson cleared for 5-on-5 practice, still listed as out for the Knicks' first game back. So not quite there yet. I think initially he was considered questionable, but then was later updated to out for this first game. So I guess they don't feel quite as good about his conditioning just yet. OG Anunoby questionable, which feels like usually the Knicks use questionable as a roundabout way to say probable and say that a guy is most likely going to play. But OG was technically listed as questionable the last couple games before the break and did not play. So maybe a true 50-50 shot that he plays in this first game back from break. But he's trending in the right direction. I don't know. How are we feeling right now about these injury updates? I'm feeling pretty encouraged. I think that Mitch is probably back within the next couple games based off how things usually go for the Knicks.
Yeah, I think far and away the single biggest thing here is that Mitchell Robinson is playing 5-on-5 because that's I think it was last episode. I talked about that a little bit, that even like I always try to really closely track the tone of Ian Begley's tweets. I will watch like his SNY post games and say like, all right, what's the tenor in his voice? And it's like going over this Zapruder film for me, because he tends to know more than he actually says and is very definitive in only going with what he is 100% sure of and not really like leaning one way or another based on reporting. I say all that to say, like, I was feeling a sense of like, yeah, they say he's coming back, but they've said that a long time, and we know Alex is a long time. People who've done this podcast for a few years, but just as far back as this summer, like the Knicks were saying, like, oh yeah, you'll see Mitchell Robinson, like like December, like he'll be back in a few months, and it kept getting pushed back, and we're just getting to a point like, are we actually going to see this guy play this year? And you could have a situation like Bojan Bogdanovic with the Nets, which is I feel terrible for the guy. Screwed the Sixers one more time. Like he had season-ending surgery after you kept hearing like, oh yeah, he's going to be back. He's going to be back. He's going to be back. And that has sort of been the trend with Mitch in recent years. So I was feeling a little bit of internal pessimism. And the single biggest thing is just that like he's running and he's actually taking contact, tells you that he is on a trajectory to be back very soon. So that is incredibly exciting, because I miss watching Mitchell Robinson play basketball. I am extremely intrigued to see how he fits in with this team. And we're going to talk rotation a little later. Maybe we could do a lineup when he actually, or an episode when he comes back on lineups we're intrigued to see. OG Anunoby, Shams Charania had before the Celtics game that he will be back after the All-Star break. I doubted it a little bit. I'm like, well, they keep listing him as questionable. You know what? He knew better than I did. So I have a feeling he is going to play. And I think, as they should, the Knicks were just very cautious with his injury. And honestly, at this point, like we can talk about it with Josh Hart too, but with Mitch also, like that should be the approach with all these guys. Like the Knicks seem very much locked into the 3 seed. I think it would actually be a good thing for them if they hypothetically fell to the 4 seed. Like, just take your time. Make sure these guys are healthy. Give them as much rest as they needed. That is my main priority the second half of the year.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think in terms of the Mitch news, I think I'm pretty like of the mind that he's going to be back the next couple of days as well. I mean, he's even we know that Mitch is very active on social media and always very excited to share whatever he's doing, whether he's in the weight room or whatever. But he shared a pretty definitive go time with his practice jersey the other day. So I mean, if you want to read into that, seems like he thinks that he's ready to rock at this point. And it's just going to be getting that final approval. I would assume the main thing is that they're probably just trying to make sure, like, get him through a few days of 5-on-5s, make sure that his conditioning is where it needs to be before you throw him on an NBA floor in games that you're probably hoping to win. I wonder if maybe putting him out against Chicago, it would have been fine, whether he was fully conditioned or not. Like, it's not exactly the cream of the crop. It's not like it's a game against the Cavs or something, but whatever. They're probably looking for it and saying, hey, let's make sure he is fully ready for 3 games against the Cavs, because I mean, he's the difference maker in that scenario. Like, he is the guy that broke these guys' backs a couple years ago, or one of the main reasons that they had their backs broken in the playoffs by the Knicks a couple years ago. So, I think that's probably their line of thinking there. OG, I think we're going to reference him in the next segment too when we talk about this new heart injury. But Brian Suterer, who is like a doctor that deals with sports injuries and whatever, and has a great YouTube channel where he breaks down all this stuff, had mentioned with the OG injury, like when he saw it, first off, solving all of our fears and just comforting Knicks fans and being like, no, I know that some of you think maybe this was like a huge, like, no contact injury, but actually look, his foot kind of goes a little awkward as he's landing, and he probably just strained his what was it? The Liz Frank tendons in between his feet. Yeah. And, he's like, it's probably just a sprain. He had kind of said with that, it's like any sprain, you rest and relax it, and then you can get taped up and whatever and try to immobilize the area, and you could play through it. It's just pain management, physical therapy, seeing what you can get through. So I kind of have I have a faith in the Knicks training staff, but I also do have kind of a faith in OG Anunoby himself as far as what his pain threshold is and what he can play through. I mean, I think I don't know. I know just from the pulse of the fan base and like his rep from Toronto and stuff, there was some worry last year about him, like, oh, he's, keeping himself out. He's not playing through it or whatever, with regard to the elbow or whatever. But then we saw in the playoffs, I mean, the guy like literally limped himself out there, Willis Reed style, in Game 7 and tried his best to play through a clearly mangled hamstring. So I think this guy is a pretty good read on his own body and what he's capable of, and if he's able to play at the level that he wants to play at. So I don't really have too much issue with them kind of taking it slow with that. If he doesn't play this first game against Chicago, again, they're not like exactly the cream of the crop. I would hope the Knicks could get by with just their 2 all-star starters and, the rest of the guys minus OG and Mitch, or possibly Hart, I guess, if that turns into anything. But I'm feeling pretty good about these injury updates. Like, I think we'll probably be seeing them very soon, if not this first game for both of them, then hopefully by the weekend or, early next week, something like that. I'm not going to lie. I don't have the schedule in front of me to know exactly when the next.
Yeah. So it's Boston. This is what's interesting. It's Boston Sunday, Cleveland Friday. And if I were them, I would wait until Wednesday, because then you get another 2 days, and then they play the Philadelphia 76ers. So the only fear there is that it rightfully inspires some PTSD in Mitchell Robinson. Though the last time he was on the court, he was shutting down Joel Embiid. So outside of the risk of Embiid deciding to try to pull him out of the air again, maybe Mitch just doesn't jump the whole game. I don't know. Outside of that risk, I do think that is a favorable matchup for Mitch, especially because Embiid is extremely hampered this year and is not really himself. Like, that would be a good way to build some confidence versus throwing him to the wolves and letting Kristaps Porzingis rain threes on him. The alternative, of course, is you play him, which maybe is what the Knicks will do against Boston anyways. You play him when KP's out of the game. You let him battle with his old, I think they overlap, his old practice foe, Luke Cornett. Am I wrong about that? Was Cornett off the team before he was on? I can't remember. Cornett was on it a lot. Cornett's had a nice career now, 8 years. Shout out to Luke Cornett. But that would be fine. I would just, I think the Knicks are going to do this regardless of the opponent. I would play Mitch like 10 minutes at most the first time he's out there. I would be extremely conservative with OG. Honestly, like, people can tell me I'm crazy, like, and it's not the Tom Thibodeau way. I personally would probably like not play OG back-to-backs until like the last 10 games of the season, when you're really trying to ramp up his cardio for the playoffs. Like, I just wouldn't do it, because we'll talk about it with Josh Hart. Like there are like injuries you could have literally just from overuse And those are the ones that tend to lead to more serious injuries, which I think is why the Knicks haven't played him. But, well, we can also get into the actual basketball impact, Alex, because I am just really excited. One, to see OG Anunoby play basketball again. Two, I think he's going to play really good basketball, because we saw when the Knicks, like what was the stretch? It was like 2-3 weeks ago where they had 4 days off, and then OG came back and he looked like early season OG again. I have a feeling after a game to get acclimated, we're going to see that. And the Knicks, if they don't take my advice and they play him back-to-backs, I want to see that against Cleveland. I want to see how he handles Evan Mobley. I want to see how they look against the Celtics with him guarding Jason Tatum from the opening tip-off. Like, I am just incredibly excited to see that dude play basketball and see if it makes any difference against these top teams. The Knicks, at least against the Celtics, have not looked very good.